Hey y'all, today we're going to fix some sloppy steering by replacing a track bar. Let's do it. Alrighty, older Jeeps and larger Dodge trucks are notorious for steering issues. They got sloppy steering. A lot of times it leads to death wobble, and in most cases this thing right here is the culprit. This is your track bar. This is what locates your differential underneath your Jeep, keeps it from sliding side to side. Alright, it's very important for ride quality. And the one on my Cherokee over there, this upper ball joint right here that mounts the body side mount is all worn out, right? Take a look at how bad it is. Alright, now that little bit of play, believe it or not, is having a huge effect on the steering. And if that Jeep was lifted at all, I'll bet you would have death wobble. Now, unfortunately, on XJs, the mounts are not serviceable. That's okay though. What you do is go and get yourself a whole new one. This one is greasable. It's made by Moog with some discount codes from Advanced Auto. Got it for $75. Alright, before we dig into this, if you are watching this video and looking at your track bar trying to solve death wobble, I recommend you check out my video on death wobble. Hit that card right up in the corner right there. I go in depth on what causes death wobble, how to find death wobble, how to find the components that are causing death wobble, and ultimately how to cure it, right? Let's get back to this. Alright, this was meant to be a daylight video, but shorter days and rainy weather conspired against me, so we are inside the garage working by the light of the Baco. Right now, if you're looking for your track bar, it's this crazy bent one behind your drag link, behind your sway bar, right? All the way at the back, connected to the body at a hard mount. It's usually got a greasable point there. Makes a funny little bend, travels on down, and connects to your axle right there. Now that mount, you can see right here, there's a little flag nut. That's how it tightens in the back since you can't get a wrench behind it. This 15 mil bolt right there is quite often rusted into place, so might be a little bit of a project getting it off. Alright, so not only is this bolt going to be rusted to this flag nut, but the nut has a tendency to freeze inside this bushing. So you may have to, even once it's disconnected from the flag nut, it may be a project pulling it out. What I like to do is get a wrench behind the head like that and then spin it as you pull back on the wrench. Alrighty, on your XJ, your upper mount for your track bar is a little ball joint. It's like a tie rod end, and the nut and the cotter pin and everything are inside this bracket, so it's a little bit of a struggle. You have to get up in there. There's going to be a 3/4 inch nut holding this on, and there's a cotter pin through it. The only way to do it, get yourself some dikes, get yourself some pliers, get in there and just fish with it until you get the are able to pull the cotter pin out. Then you get I like to use, I think a short socket gets in there pretty well, but whatever you can do, basically. You can take this bracket off, but it makes a lot more work for you. I like to just do it with everything still attached. Get your cotter pin out, pull your nut off, and go from there. Alright, now to remove the track bar from the bracket, you're going to need something like this, called a pickle fork. What you do is, the bracket would be up here. You get this in between the knuckle right here and the flat spot on your bracket. You get that right in there with the post in the middle of the fork here. You just wail on the back of it and they will pop right apart. Obviously you do this once the nut is popped off. Pickle fork, you can rent one at any auto parts store, though I recommend if you're going to own a solid axle Jeep or any other vehicle, go ahead and buy one if you're going to be using it. Alrighty, now my top bolt was so screwed up with rust that I couldn't get it from underneath. So what I had to do was pull this whole bracket off. Now these two nuts right here are accessible from below the Jeep. These two are on studs right outside your wheel. Two studs are right here. They're both 18 mil. And the two bolts are right here. Alright, they are also 18. You get those four fasteners off, the two bolts down here and the two studs up there, and that whole bracket will come off. Alrighty, so I'm just buttoning up the job now. I didn't show you much of the process in between because it's pretty self-explanatory. This bracket came down. Since the track bar was disconnected at the other side, I took the whole thing out. Got this bracket in a vise. I was able to break this rusted nut free. I put this new track bar into the bracket and put the nut on before I got it in the Jeep. It It was easier that way, and then I just tightened this up. It's a 3/4 nut up top. You're going to need a stubby wrench to get it tight, and then make sure you get the cotter pin in there. I know there are torque specs on these, but I've always had better luck just snugging these down, getting them a good strong snug down, and then putting a cotter pin through them. Anytime I use any kind of ball setup like this, tie rod ends, whatever, that's how I do it. Those of you who like to torque stuff, I'm sure the spec is out there on the internet. If you picked up a greasable one, which most of them are, make sure you include the Zerk right here, the grease Zerk, and make sure you grease these things. The easiest way to kill a ball joint is to starve it of grease. This one's, if you buy a greasable joint, it does not come greased. If you buy a sealed joint, it comes greased, obviously. That's it on this side. As you can see on this side, I used the same old hardware, same flag nut. I just run it in there again. There's torque on that one, but I just crank that one down as tight as I can. Eric came over halfway through the project. Let me borrow his impact gun, so that was pretty easy. There's no cotter pins or anything on that side. And there you go. You got a new track bar. Hopefully that will solve whatever issue it was. For me, it was a little click in the steering and just a little bit of looseness. Alright, y'all, this project is done. I've had these take 20 minutes when you don't have to take the whole bracket off. This one took me a little bit longer because that nut was so rusted in there. But it's not a hard process. You know, it's basically just remove the old hardware, put this new stuff in. If when you go to put your new piece in, the holes aren't lining up, a lot of times your body will move while you're working on it. So now your axle and your body are in a different orientation. Take a ratchet strap, right? Hook one side on your body, hook the other side on your axle, and crank it. Usually you just need to pull them together a little bit. Alright guys, that's all for this video. If you found it helpful, and I hope you did, please go leave me a comment, let me know what you thought. Give me that thumbs up if you did like the video. Hit that subscribe button. Thanks for watching. See you next time.